Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky is praising his forces after claims they sank Russia's largest warship in the Black Sea with a missile attack. Russia's defense ministry says the ship sank after a fire broke out on board, but Russian forces still appear close to taking control of a key port city. Our Marcus Moore is in Kyiv with the latest.
New images out of Mariupol showing the increasing devastation in the already battered city that has been at the center of fierce fighting between Russian and Ukrainian forces. The commander of Ukrainian Marine forces there saying the situation is critical and pleading this morning for help to break the Russian siege, saying, quote, it must be done as soon as possible. And the Russians suffering a major blow to their military and its morale, confirming the country's largest ship, the Moskva, sunk in the Black Sea. Ukraine's military claims 2 of its anti-missiles hit the cruiser, but Russia says the damage came after a fire on board near its ammunition stores. President Zelensky applauding those defending Ukraine, saying, quote, those who have shown that Russian ships can go to the bottom only. In the wake of the explosion, a U.S. defense official now says Russia has moved several of its ships operating in the region farther away from the coast. And as the $800 million in new U.S. military aid goes to Ukraine, the Washington Post reporting the Russians warning the U.S. in a formal diplomatic note of, quote, unpredictable consequences, saying the U.S. and NATO were adding fuel to the conflict with the weapons shipments. With the Russian military facing setbacks all over the country, the U.S. CIA director warning that Putin could escalate Russian attacks in Ukraine.
None of us can take lightly the threat posed by a potential resort to tactical nuclear weapons.
But he adds they've not seen practical evidence that such a move could happen in the near future. Just outside Kyiv, we saw the devastation Russians have left behind. You can see the burned out vehicles just behind me, and then off in the distance, that building, all of its windows blown out. And look at the wall there, signs of the shrapnel. In this area alone, so many lives have been torn apart by the invasion. Is this your home? Это твой дом?
Да, это мой дом.
Andrei Sovenyuk told us Russian fascists came here in a tank, sending him, his wife, and 15-year-old daughter running to a neighbor's basement for safety. He showed us pieces of the round he says left his family's home in ruins.
And Marcus Moore joins me live now from Kyiv with the latest on this. Marcus, senior U.S. officials are now saying they believe that the Moskva ship was in fact hit by 2 Ukrainian-launched missiles. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, Diane, that's a significant development. This coming from a U.S. defense official at the Pentagon, saying that they believe that 2 Ukrainian Neptune missiles hit that vessel and eventually caused the fire, and then subsequently for it to sink. But what we don't know at this point is whether any Russian soldiers were injured or killed, either in the actual missile attack or when the boat sank. So still a lot of unanswered questions about this, but again, the Russians saying that the fire occurred on the ship and that there was an explosion following that. They are denying that the Ukrainians were able to fire on that vessel and for those missiles to hit the ship.
Now, Russia is also warning the U.S. and NATO that there could be, quote, unpredictable consequences if they continue to send Ukraine weapons. What's been the reaction to those comments, both from the U.S., NATO allies, and also from Ukraine?
Well, certainly it is concerning. The Western officials taking those threats seriously. And even on the ground here, it has already been a very tense time. As you know, throughout Ukraine, there's a curfew in place. And so the mood here is certainly one of concern. And everyone knows of the potential for airstrikes to occur. And so for this threat to be made, it only reinforces that. We have heard earlier in the day the air raid sirens going off, and then overnight there were airstrikes in the region, reportedly hitting targets outside of the city. But right now, officials here are urging residents and anyone here in Kyiv and in Ukraine to stay vigilant, that when those air raid sirens do go off, that they find shelter immediately and to take those warnings seriously. The Russians have said that they would target Kyiv, the communications and command centers here in the city, and Diane, officials are expecting there to be an increase in the number of airstrikes here over the next several days.
And Marcus, the Biden administration's latest $800 million aid package includes some new hardware. So how are those weapons expected to impact the battle there in Ukraine, or the war, I should say?
Well, Diane, it's important to point out that the soldiers for the Ukrainians who have been fighting in the eastern part of the country, they say that they need equipment. They've been calling for assistance from the West to battle Russia for quite some time, and this aid package will be a significant element for them as they continue that fight. And we're talking about drones, also artillery, and personnel carriers that will help them in this fight. But time is of the essence. From everything that we have heard, that this fight is still ongoing in the east. And Diane, the Russians are expected to step up their bombardment on the region, and that's why the Ukrainians want those weapons now. They want them fast.
All right, Marcus Moore in Kyiv for us. Thanks, Marcus. Stay safe.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.